Okay, we're ready.
Man of the hour. How you doing, Steve?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you for asking.
Before she gavels. So we agreed to go down to some of this it's just
Yeah, it's going to be the big old thing, yeah. That everyone else is doing.
Well, I hope everyone else is doing. We'll go over it on my chairman's report.
Sounds good.
Tad.
All right.
All right, agenda. I may need this thing. Are we ready to begin? I think it's 7 o'clock. Do we have a quorum?
Looks like it.
Who's online?
We have a call-in number, Angela, campaigns and legislative.
A call-in number, is
Yeah, who's on
that
the phone?
Stacy?
Stacy Petty, present.
There you go.
So Brandon Mark is not present.
No. Michael. That's legislative, right? Yeah, he's there.
Is legislative in?
Yes.
All right, I guess we have a quorum. Let's begin. Has everyone read the agenda? Can we approve the agenda, or are there any objections to it? With no objections, the agenda is approved. Guests and public commentary, 3 minutes each, a total of 20 minutes. Mr. Atwood.
Good morning, good evening. I'm Frank Atwood. I'm your liaison to Center Right Coalition meeting. This morning there were about 6 different topics. One of them was that building a better Colorado is a progressive front. Be aware that they're using Delphi method and are wanting higher taxes. There's Natalie Menton's pushing the petition rights amendment initiative that's going to have a hearing in December. To all you veterans, happy Veterans Day. You have an annual electoral reform symposium handout. If not, ask for it. Also, there's a caucus room, which is a community for conservatives to gather, network, encourage, and mobilize locally. And there's also the Lincoln Club, a report from the front lines. See you, Regent Heidi Gandolf. Any questions for Center Right Coalition or approval voting or approval voting party? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Atwood. Anyone else? Atwood. Anybody else have a commentary for public comment? No? Affiliate and development group reports. Arapahoe County?
Excuse me?
Arapahoe County.
I will be speaking on behalf of Arapahoe County. Tomorrow night is a Happy at the Alegre, what's the name of it?
Rancho Alegre Mexican
In
Restaurant.
Aurora. It is also an auspicious date because it will be my 64th birthday, and I don't know if you will still be here when I'm 64, but we'll find out tomorrow. Also, the LPCO is going to be doing a Festivus event this year. I think you've already selected the date as December the 17th.
Mm-hmm.
And we have volunteered to make our house available as the host place, so it could save a lot of people money on the price of drinks and booze, and anybody who attends, the money that you would have spent to buy food and beverage, we will provide food and beverage, and we would like you to use those funds to participate in your gripes against the government. The Arapahoe County Libertarian Party will be making that, it's not our normal Tuesday, but it'll be the following Tuesday. We're going to make that our December meeting. That'll be our only December meeting. And we would like to suggest possibly that the other Denver Metro affiliates might consider doing the same, or at least helping to support the event in any way they can.
Thank you. Boulder. With no Boulder presence. Delta. Denver. Anyone from Denver? Douglas, Mr.
Denver.
Harlan? Oh, Denver. Sorry, we'll go back to Denver after Douglas, since,
Douglas County had a great meeting last Tuesday. We had a fantastic turnout. We had 2 great speakers, and it was a lot of fun. I would have hoped that we would have had more of the board members there. Steve Gallant was the only one, and of course Michael Stapleton was the only 2 that were there. But it was a fantastic meeting. I think you would have enjoyed it.
yeah, I'm sorry I was not able to attend. I had a prior commitment in Franktown.
Oh, one more thing.
Yes.
We have applied for a booth for the Star Lighting in Castle Rock, which I believe is the 23rd of November. I'll have to double check that date. But if our booth application is approved, and we should hear by tomorrow, we're probably going to be reaching out to the state party to help us advertise for volunteers to help us man it. It's only 3-4 hours, but it's going to be cold, so we need some hardy people. So,
What's the location of the event?
Hold on, I had a question.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, it's a
Mr.
Star Lighting
Chairman.
event in downtown
Vice
Castle Rock.
It's called the Star what, Wayne? Lighting?
Star Lighting.
Oh, yeah, the big one that's on the rock.
Yeah, they have the big star that's up on top of the rock, and they turn it into a big party in downtown Castle Rock. Last year, there were 75,000 people that came through there in 3
Wow.
hours. So a tremendous amount of exposure, and it's free to us if we're approved.
So you would need volunteers from what hour to what hour?
I think, I don't have all the details on it. I'll have more by tomorrow, I hope. But it's probably going to be about an hour before sundown till about 8 o'clock.
Okay, nice.
And like I said, there's going to be a lot of exposure, and I'm going to try to set up our awning in case there's any moisture. But probably going to need some help from the state party and some of the supplies.
Happy to help.
What's the date?
I think it's the 23rd. Karen, do you know the date of the Star Lighting?
I'll be in Hawaii.
I will confirm
Okay,
that.
I
I'll
used
send
to
you
like
details.
Karen Ann, but now I'm not so sure anymore.
I won't be in Hawaii.
Mr. Atkins.
Wayne, if it goes through, would you send me the details?
And it's, or has its next meeting on the 19th, next Tuesday at the dive-in. It'll be at 6:30. Basically, I guess we've got completed bylaws, and I've had some issues with my computer dying on me. But I do have a hard copy. I wasn't able to send a copy into the board. I would assume you guys probably will need time to review them though before voting on them. So I can send in I guess I should be able to access a copy to send in. I guess.
Are you having your upcoming board elections this upcoming meeting?
Well, we're no longer having a December meeting because it's the same date as the Festivus that we're holding.
So the November meeting, are you having elections in November?
No, that'll be at our January meeting.
January. And you are having your event at Festivus at the Kevin and Michelle's.
Right.
Denver will be joining and having just that meeting in December, right?
Yep.
Awesome. Anything else?
I have a question.
No, you have a question.
Do you still have the database release form? I sent it, but I don't know if you might have lost it.
Oh, do I still need to sign that?
Yeah, if you can sign that and return it, and then that way we can. I don't think so. I don't think we.
Thank you, Mr. Fury. El Paso County.
El Paso's having its next meeting the 21st. That's every third Thursday except December. Our last board meeting should have been our last board meeting on the 3rd. Didn't happen because our vice chair was Michelle and Kevin, so we didn't have a quorum.
We didn't tell her to skip that meeting, by the way.
was the life of the party.
Yes, she was.
And December 11th is supposed to be the birthday of the Libertarian Party.
Oh.
El Paso always has their December meeting on the 11th, with cake and such.
It's pretty good cake. I've
Everybody's
had it before.
That's it.
Thank you, El Paso. Jefferson County.
Yeah, our next meeting is going to be, well, first of all, we played a pretty big role in doing Facebook ads against CC. We're very happy about the results. That got creamed in the election, so that's extremely good news. And actually, Jeffco 1A also got creamed. Our next meeting is going to be on the 21st, and they're always at Holiday Lanes, Colorado, in Lakewood. It has a pretty good meeting room with a good amount of space, and food's extremely inexpensive. Our topic's going to be the topic that's not talked about a whole lot, and that's the Ninth Amendment. It's the Ninth Amendment of the Constitution. And a lot of people don't even know about it. So basically, the Ninth Amendment has a bunch of rights, but it doesn't really say what the rights are. So we'll talk about that. And that kind of goes into the negative rights and positive rights a little bit too. Kind of goes into that topic. But it should be a really, really good time. That'll be the 21st. And Holiday Lanes is, on West Colfax, real easy to get to. It's pretty decent parking too. So hope you can make it.
Mr. Secretary.
So Ross, your group discovered a new technique for getting voters out, especially libertarians. And I just want to bring up, you want to tell them what Miguel did?
Yeah, it's pretty smart. So we have a list of phone numbers for the libertarians in Jeffco, which is about 4,800. And so we just texted the members that we have phone numbers for. And right before the election, this is probably like 3 or 4 days. No, it's about a little less than a week. But yeah. And to get up, because at that point, the percentage of the libertarians that had gotten out to vote already was kind of low. And so that did get more of them out, which is really good. And the voter turnout altogether wasn't great, but that's not a good issue. But it did get a little bit higher, which really helped us out.
We were monitoring the amount of libertarians who voted day by day as the returns came in, so we could see who we still needed to contact. And so it's get out the vote thing that the Democrats use a lot.
That's fantastic.
And yeah, we don't know if it helped, but it seemed cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it helps.
Well, maybe calls it help.
Have you been able to determine perhaps if there's been a higher percentage of registered libertarians in Jeffco voting compared to perhaps some of the other counties?
Or maybe we could look at the last off-year election for Jeffco itself.
Yeah.
Because Jeffco's a little different than some of the other.
That's true.
So yeah, that's a good idea.
Houses.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think a lot of them won't. I mean, I did some of the calls manually, and I mean, it is probably about 70%.
30 seconds. Thank you, Jefferson. Ross, thank you. Is there anybody from Mesa County on the phone? No? Pueblo? Mr. Pickerel?
Our next meeting is a week from tomorrow, the 19th. It'll be at the Senate Bar and Grill as normal at 6:30. Our guest speaker will be County Commissioner Garrison Ortiz. One of the ballot initiatives that got voted down in Pueblo was they wanted to raise sales tax in the city to pay for a new jail, or in the county to pay for a new jail. That got defeated. And so, yes. So, being a county commissioner now, I'm sure he's going to be bringing up all the concerns on the jail, how we need a new jail. One of the other issues also is there was a county audit done of the finances, and on the good side, Garrison Ortiz actually came out very critical of the county finances and has pledged to do something about it. He has been willing to stand up from time to time and buck the good old boys. Speaking of which, the other ballot initiatives that were defeated, Pueblo West had a ballot initiative for raising sales tax, or opposing a sales tax. There is no sales tax in Pueblo West, and it got defeated. They wanted to build a new fire station, so we said no. District 60 School Board did get approved for a $218 million bond to rebuild schools. However, District 70 defeated a proposal for a $70 million bond for doing their schools. And sadly, they are going to raise the marijuana tax, sales tax from 3.9% to 6%. And I think that the county is going to try to parlay that into slowly paying for their pretty new jail. That is all.
Thank you. There are no other development groups or affiliates. LNC report, Ms. Harlow, is there anything?
Yeah, I'm sorry to put something in writing. I'll give a brief summary, and if anyone has any questions, you'll let me know. I had briefed Ms. Reynolds in depth about some pretty serious developments that are going on. It's going to be impossible to give the whole scope in such a short amount of time. But basically, this board had been aware before about the hullabaloo around Mr. Sarwark attempting to earn $75 an hour for doing the job of our previous fundraiser. And more information has come out since then. And if you remember, that whole situation was just a little weird because Lauren was a great fundraiser. She left because she wasn't getting support from Nick. That's basically what it came down to. That isn't what was publicly said, but that is what was said at the meeting. He wasn't helping her. She couldn't take it anymore. She left. And she was passed over for the executive director job. The person that Nick hired for the executive director over Lauren then turned around and recommended Nick to take Lauren's job. So that already right there does not look very good. But we have since found out in the meantime, on good information yet to be confirmed or denied by Mr. Sarwark, is that at the time that this $75 an hour thing was going on, he was being courted by Bill Weld for a job. And that was never disclosed to the LNC, and it should have been. Because now there's financial motivation for things like getting on Facebook and saying you're gonna vote for Mr. Weld in the primary. So there's all kinds of weird conflicts of interest that are going on right now that at least look bad, and some people think they crossed the line into actual corruption. So this LNC meeting's going to be tense coming up. 8 LNC members signed that letter to Nick of concern about his actions, him and the executive director. The Region 1 representative was also one of the signatories, as was I. But was even more disappointing, you have 8 LNC members that signed a letter and the rest of the LNC remained absolutely silent in the face of potential corruption charges. So that's not good. Even if you don't believe it, you have to investigate it. And so far, Mr. Sarwark refuses to answer the question about the job offer from Mr. Weld. So we'll see if that happens this coming up meeting. And a new development director has been hired over the wishes of the LNC, is telling the executive director at our prior meeting and not to hire a non-libertarian, and this person has absolutely no libertarian background, who's getting the keys to our donor database and is from Massachusetts, which is where our executive director is from, over and above other people that implied, including Larry Sharp, who would have been a fantastic fundraiser. So it all is not very good.
Ms. Harlow's time's up.
Yeah.
I would actually like to hear more about this. I don't know if I could motion to
You could
extend the time if I have a second.
Second.
Any opposed? I'd like to extend it by 2 minutes. Are there any opposed?
Opposed,
No?
but it's just one person. So.
Pardon?
Opposed.
Opposed?
But it's just
Anyone else opposed? With one opposition, I'd like to extend, we're extending it by 2 minutes. Please continue, Ms.
That
Harlow.
was the brief summary. Anyone interested, I could forward to you the letters that were written by the concerned LNC members, Nick's response, our response back. But I would just keep an eye on things if I were you. Whether or not you share the concerns of those LNC members, the fact that they're just not being addressed, that's what the old parties do.
Mr. Mulder.
I have a question, Karen Ann Harlow, it's separate from the matter that you were talking about. You got an estimate on when we'll get our numbers for the national convention for 2020, like what our delegate count is?
By the end of this month is when it's required by the bylaws. I'm hoping to have it sooner. I just got the final numbers from Robert as far as, because they have to wait till certain mail comes in to give enough time for people who's postmarked before it. So by the bylaws, you'll have it by the end of this month.
Cool.
I have a question as well, as regarding the platform, the national platform delegates. You said the Colorado, in an email that I received, you said that Colorado earned the additional platform members, along with several other states. How many platform committee delegates does Colorado have?
They earned one.
One.
But because of it being in the top 10, for the delegate allocations for this thing, earns a committee seat for the next convention. We're always a convention ahead, that is the way platform seats. So in 2022, Colorado has a platform committee seat already, that's done.
Awesome.
So we had one this time, and we've earned one for next time.
Thank you.
So is that still one, or is that 2 for 22?
It's one and any number of ranked alternates.
Got it.
Mr. Pickerel?
Since last board meeting, has there been any applications for the our delegates to the platform and or the platform and bylaws committee?
That wouldn't be.
No, I'm asking for.
We have received several.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yes, there are several. I don't have the exact number, but there
Yeah, I
are
was just curious if
several
it's actually getting
applications.
traction.
There's quite a few.
Okay.
You had a question? Any other questions? No? Are we done? Anything else? Thank you very much, Ms. Harlos. We go on to the next item on the agenda, read and approve minutes. Has everyone read the minutes? Are there any opposed to the approval of the minutes? With no opposition, the minutes are approved. Officer reports. Chairman. I know that this is not something I do every time, but I would actually like to say something on my report. In the month of October, we raised over $6,000. About $5,000 of it was for convention ticket sales. We increased our membership.
Some weird feedback on
Is that a feedback? It's not somebody trying to talk? Sorry. We increased our membership to over 500 people. And I would really like to thank Betty Rose Ryan and Joe Johnson for the effort that they put in to sending additional newsletters to people who had never been national members, along with that letter requesting them to become members, and even going as far as hiring a telemarketing firm to make phone calls to people who've never been national members in order to increase our national membership, in a joint effort with national as well, and requesting money for the LPCO also. The membership, the national membership has increased to over 500 members, but I am sure that those efforts will trickle in more membership later on. Thank you so much, Ms. Ryan, and thank you to Joe Johnson.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe unbeknownst to the LPCO, because it's things that happen behind the scenes, it turns out that I found out that Joshua Smith was also behind the scenes. He signed up about 20 Colorado members from being on the part of the problem show, where he recruited members, and then a bunch of them were Colorado members that he had forwarded over. He was a recruiting champ that day, but we benefited from that.
Thank you. I would also like to mention that we had an awesome event in November 2nd, and the Day of the Dead party. We raised a whole bunch of money. It's over $350 right there from that showed up or to the party, who made phone calls. We sold a bunch of tickets as well. I don't know how many yet. in addition to the money that was raised personally in the party. We had an election this month, and CC was defeated, and it was defeated well, and I'm very proud of everyone who made phone calls to ask people to vote no. I know that we made over 1,000 phone calls in one day asking people to vote no on CC, and it was defeated. I also am proud to say that 1A in both Arapahoe County and Jefferson County were defeated. Thank you to the people who worked so hard on those efforts also. We got new elected officials this last election. Paul James, Craig Hurst, and David Black are now city council members in 3 different places. So we have 3 newly elected officials or re-elected officials in Colorado. And I appreciate everyone for their support. I thank everyone for being here. And that's about it. Thank you so much. Vice Chair.
I have one addition to my report, and that is under the
Festivus.
We already talked about the Festivus.
Okay. Sorry.
Under my continuity binder report, we actually have a continuity file in place for the communications director. So that's in addition to the other binders that have already been made.
There should be one for chairman as well.
I'll have to see that.
Okay.
So you want our continuity binders in there?
Yep, absolutely. That'd be great in the continuity binder under the vice chair section. That would be perfect.
Oh, sorry, I'll have to add mine to under vice chair because mine is under chairman.
Cool.
Joe's program netted 14 new national memberships and $475 for LPCO. On continuity binders, mine is very detailed and lots of passwords and such, and I'm going to have to clean it out and make it more generic for for general consumption. Gonna keep the detailed one just for the high relief.
Cool. Sounds good, John. Thank you.
Oh, because those are available? The continuity binders are open to the public or not?
They're really more for internal use.
I know, but could the public get to them?
They shouldn't be able to, can they?
Can the
depends on how you share them.
Wait, are you asking can they now, or do you want them to be?
No, can they now?
I don't know. Can they?
Yeah, I mean, what folder are they in? It depends on the permission.
Vice chair.
Folder.
They're under the vice chair folder.
You're gonna have to show me afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should not be
Google Drive is
shareable. They're
kind of a
supposed
cluster
to be
when it
for
comes to
the relief only. Or that's what they're supposed to be, is for the person that comes
I'm
after.
concerned about security because I wasn't too high.
Yeah, for now in your continuity binders, don't put passwords in those.
Yeah, how's that security audit going?
I mean, without an enterprise solution, we're just gonna have to go folder by folder and figure out who has access to it.
Anything else? Treasurer, fundraising. Angela?
Nothing to add.
Nothing to add. Campaigns.
I've got nothing to add.
Outreach. Outreach is not here. Affiliates.
David has a question.
Oh, Mr. Atkin.
Brandon has not been here for 2 months running, right?
He was he on the phone last time?
No.
No.
That's true. I am meeting with him this week.
Oh, you are? Okay. Because our bylaws or constitution say that if you miss 2 meetings without excuses, you're suspended.
He did have an excuse last meeting. Because he was stuck at work and sent an email to me. So I will meet with him this meeting.
So
Affiliates.
I've updated the continuity binder, existing continuity binder, and had a long chat with Paul James about setting up a Craig and possibly Moffett development group. So he sounds very interested in that. And he's on the Craig City Council.
We got a city council member who is wanting to set up an affiliate in Craig and Moffat.
Yep.
Awesome. Anything else?
Oh, that was
Yay. Very nice. Mr. Atkin.
Would you make sure that he gets on the website as the contact for that county?
Yes. Well, actually, that does raise another question. Did we figure out how to give access to the Facebook affiliate pages?
Yes, just ask me.
Okay.
Or Stacy, we're both our admins on most of them.
And that was Craig and Montrose, you said?
Craig and Moffat.
Craig is not a county. Craig is a city.
Oh, okay.
Is it Rio Blanco?
Craig is in Moffat County.
That makes sense. Anything further?
No.
Legislative. Michael, are you there?
Yeah, he's on.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to my report from earlier this evening. Hopefully everybody had a chance to read it. There was some items that came out of the school safety committee with proposed legislation, and also the list of items the governor wants to increase in budget spending.
Thank you. Communications?
I do have a few items to add to my report. I am actively looking for contributors for all of our social media platforms, mostly Instagram and Twitter, as those tend to target younger demographics. So I would like someone that communicates well with a different age generation than what I am. Welcome, though, to be regular contributors. Also on Facebook, Ms. Harless, years back, established a schedule for posting that has worked very well for me and all over the page, and I want to share those numbers with you here in just a minute. But I am looking for another round of individuals to be contributors on a regular schedule on Facebook. I've been doing it myself, which is not a problem. I don't have an issue doing that, but I like a diversity of thought. What I wanted to share are some numbers with you guys here, and I don't know if you knew this, but the Libertarian page for Colorado is #2 in the nation for state party Libertarian pages. We're second only behind Florida, so I think that's a pretty big deal considering the population. And our page has been growing significantly here lately. We have over 28,000 follows, over 28,000 likes, and a comparison for, which I would like for us to try and figure out why this is. The Colorado Democrat Party Facebook page only has about 25,000 each for followers and likes. So we're actually ahead of the Democrats in that.
Woo-hoo!
And I would like to think that has something to do with our large unaffiliated numbers here in Colorado. But anybody that wants to help contribute or help me figure out what these numbers mean, I would very much appreciate it.
Mr. Secretary?
Stacy, I looked at your graphs and it showed a big spike in across all our social media in mid-October. What caused that?
I got very faithful with posting at least 3 times a day.
Okay.
And that's what I'm assuming is what it is. But yes, some of these averages are like around 120% growth during that period of time.
Wow.
Thank you, Stacy. Membership.
Just a couple things to stress on my report. We are at 741 volunteers and 56 people interested in running for office. And we'll talk more about the running for office part when we do the campaigns committee report. But what I've been doing is trying to, every time I get a notification, send that to the applicable director. So if we have somebody interested in outreach, trying to make sure that Brandon gets that. If we have somebody that's interested in writing or social media, try to send that to the communications. Obviously, anybody interested in not only running for office, but helping to canvass and that sort of thing to support a campaign, sending that to Michael Lopez. And I wanted to just ask the directors, is that helpful? Is it helpful to have that being sent to you? Are you able to do something with it? Or are you contacting these people?
This is Stacy.
Yeah,
I
for
can
me-
answer. Go ahead.
Okay, Angela, was that you?
No, Stacy.
Oh, it was Stacy. Stacy, go ahead.
I do receive those emails and I respond to every single one. Sometimes someone will respond back, sometimes they won't. So we just go from whatever I receive as a response.
Awesome, thank you.
Somebody else on the call-in was wanting
Yes,
to
this
say-
is legislative.
Michael, go ahead.
I too appreciate the emails and reach out to the people who volunteer as well.
I have either I've emailed, called, and even met with several of the people who have been wanting to run for office.
Okay. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Because my goal is to
Respond.
provide each of you with a pool of people, an army of people for outreach, an army of people for legislative issues, et cetera, et cetera. So if there's anything I can be doing better with that, just let me know. But right now, that's the kind of the direction I'm going, and I'll try to give you a monthly summary if that helps too.
Awesome.
That's all I have.
Is that just feedback or someone trying to say
I
something?
do have one other thing. I'm sorry.
Somebody wrestling around.
Okay.
Just a reminder for the winter edition of newsletter, submissions for that are due December 27th. That just backs up enough time for us to collect content, format, get it to the printer, and actually distribute, so we can do that by January 24th. So submissions are due by 12/27. The best way to do that is to email newsletter@lpcolorado.org.
Regarding the newsletter, did we not receive a donation of like $500 because
Yes,
of the
we did.
newsletter?
And more. Our total is $610.
From the newsletter alone?
For the newsletter alone.
Wow.
You have it right there. So, yeah, look at the pile. So, and
that's
we're
this
just going
month.
the ones that use in the newsletter form. It's got to be for the newsletter.
So all the hard work that Michelle and Karen Ann are doing is starting to pay dividends. Hopefully this will snowball and we'll get to the point where we're self-sustaining on it.
Bravo. Mr. Secretary.
All right, in addition to my report, so on those newsletter forms, there's a checkbox for, do you want your updates via text? Which is great, except I talked to Dave and we don't have that ability. And we actually had somebody who checked that who also sent in a donation, and now we can't do that. So we should either remove that or add the function. And Dave indicated it's difficult, so. Because you know what I'm talking about, right?
Ms. Pogue.
I was gonna get with Angela this month and change that, the whole back of it. It's too complicated right now. For the person that wants the text, we'll just do the email.
Right.
Reach
Well,
out to
John
my
has that
text and
information,
tell
so.
him, if I have a phone number, I can text him and tell him.
I think
we
I
don't have.
emailed you his information. Yeah, okay. And then, no, that's everything.
Thank you very much. Standing Committee Reports Technology.
I have nothing to add. Like I said, I looked into the Google Drive stuff. I mean,
Thanks.
high level, we shut off external sharing for everyone, figure out a different solution for the public files. Anything beyond that is going to be an enterprise solution. It costs at least $15 a user. So,
So we just have to be careful on sharing.
yeah, I would prefer that we shut it off for external people entirely. But
Yeah.
I've never worked for an organization where they share their files like this. So.
Is there a way that we could just make sure that it gets posted on the website for the stuff that would be public?
Do we host the files directly from Google Drive on the website? The files that we host on the website, are they directly from Google Drive?
No, they are physically uploaded to the website.
But then you have all these people who have access to these files that are not necessarily, they don't have an LP Colorado email address, so they're always access.
There was somebody accessing all of the board, not just the board reports, but our different drives that contacted us because she said that Secretary and Outreach were sharing all of their files with her. And she wanted to be removed, and that's why how we found that stuff that was not supposed to be public was being shared.
So we did find that, and I get several requests for people to share the minutes.
Right.
Then the minutes should be shared.
Do the minutes go on the website?
Mr. Atkin.
Minutes are posted on the website, but I don't post them until after they've been approved.
Right.
Which means that, once you get the minutes that we approved tonight, done, then I can share them, but you know, there's a time lag there, because we're always doing a month behind.
Right.
The other thing that gets shared is stuff in the data sharing folder, which goes out to people who have signed the NDA and have requested, you know, contacts in whatever county.
And that makes sense. We should be sharing those. Mr. Pickrell. And then Mr. Hirschman.
In every organization I belong to, even a tentative agenda is always published well in advance, because some people attend meetings based on what's going to be talked about. So I would move that we at least post a tentative agenda however many days in advance you usually have it prepared
Mr.
to the
Atkin?
website.
We already do that.
Okay. All right.
I post the agenda generally Thursday or Friday after the Wednesday that the reports are due.
Okay, I misunderstood, and I withdraw my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Hirschman.
Yeah, this is a question for Mike. Is this what you're talking about? So any money we get through this goes toward newsletters? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that one went toward the newsletter, but you see on the other side, the side facing me at the bottom, he checked text messages.
Send
we just
text message updates, is that?
Yeah, we don't have that ability, so they're gonna remove it.
Oh. Okay, but I have a fund for newsletter, and that's where all these funds are supposed to go.
Anyone
No,
that has a
that's where they're
newsletter
coming
thing
from.
included should go to the newsletter fund.
Or newsletter thing.
Right in your hand, that's torn off the back of the newsletter.
This, okay.
Yeah, so that's how you can tell.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Question. It is my understanding that not all funds that come from the newsletter go to the newsletter.
No,
It
they all
just,
go to the treasurer.
they all go, they could be used for anything. It's just, that's what we're getting
Well,
from the
But the
newsletter.
treasurer keeps track of that, and maybe we decide that it goes to the newsletter, but
But
Well,
there
that's
has
what I was
not been a
asking.
motion made
Have we
to
decided
that.
that it goes to the newsletter or not?
We have.
We have
Oh,
not.
General fund.
I don't agree.
But
Yeah.
you can track how many went to the, came
From.
from the newsletter.
Thank you.
Yeah, nothing else to add.
Mr. Atkin, your turn.
Yeah, the only thing I have to add is we're now in beta test for the county dashboard. This is a project national that will give counties direct access to national members and registered libertarians in their county and so on and so forth. That's in beta testing. I've got a beta tester from Douglas County, Sean Vadney, I think his name is, and he'll be doing that. So that will be rolling out shortly.
That's awesome. Welcome committee. Is Mark around now? Campaigns committee, Preservers Work and New Transition Campaigns Committee.
Michael, do you want me to go ahead and make the report? I talked.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, I'd ask Michael. I went through and tried to. We want to remind everybody what the deadlines are for filing for candidacy as a if you want to be nominated at the state convention. We already know. I think it was November 3rd was the deadline to be registered libertarian to be eligible to become fourth, fifth. Okay, so that deadline's already passed. The next deadline coming up will be January 5th, if I did my math right. Members shall be notified that the application process is open no later than 90 days before the convention. So we have to send out a notice that the application process is open around January 5th. And then February 18th, 45 days prior to the convention, nominees or candidates for public office that want to seek the Libertarian nomination, they may submit an application to the board, and that's the deadline. So February 18th will be the deadline. So if you know people that are candidates, encourage them to put an application in, because that does a couple of things. One, if they can't make it to the convention, we know they accept the nomination. And two, it allows the campaigns committee to vet these people, to make sure they're a good representation of the Libertarian Party. So that's February 18th. Those applications would be due. They don't have to submit one, they may submit one. We should encourage them to do that. And then March 4th is a deadline for us. The Constitution says a web page for candidates shall be posted on the party website at least 30 days prior to the convention. So just as the campaigns committee, we wanted to remind everybody what those deadlines are. The big year, our goal is to get a candidate in every state legislative race. Of course, all 65 state house offices are going up for election, and 19 of the 35 state and senate offices are going up for election. So for those of you in your own, I'll wrap this up real quick, those in your own districts, please, if you know somebody, please either send it to Michael Lopez or myself. Thank you.
Time. Issues committee startup. Issues committee.
Just waiting for a few more volunteers. Like I said, we have 4. I would like to get that up to 5 or 7, so we can get a good group of people and valuable discussion.
So we are looking for volunteers to join the issues committee. Is that my understanding?
That is correct. That is correct.
And where do they apply to if they wanted to be part of the issues committee?
It's in my report. They send it to my email.
Thank you. Legislative committee reformation.
Legislation action.
This is the last call for volunteers. I will be scheduling the first legislative action meeting in about 2.
Ms. Seebeck?
Mike Stapleton, could you please add Lydia Seebeck to that pile for legislative, please?
I will do so. Thank you.
And my son as well, John.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much for volunteering. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. Convention committee.
I have nothing to add to the report, but I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that I put inside the report a mechanism for voting for bylaws Article 7, which is the election of delegates and alternates to National Convention. And it's kind of a convoluted process. I believe it follows the details of the bylaws, but I just wanted to make sure that if anyone had any comments about where it feels that it might be wrong, to definitely let me know before I go forward with putting that into the schedule.
Thank you. Mr. Seebeck.
I reviewed what she did. She is in conformance with the bylaws of what she had. She's fine.
Thank you very much. Mr. Seebeck says that you are in conformance with the bylaws and it's fine.
Great.
And as an expert, I will trust his judgment. Mr. Stapleton.
Or Spalding.
Spalding. Shit.
So, either one.
Mike something or another.
One of those.
S.
They're everywhere, right. Anyway, we only have 4. But Angela, I noticed that it's a significant discount to get hotel rooms at the hotel for the convention. And so I don't know if you're advertising that, but I was pleasantly surprised when I was looking at that. It's like $50 off per room. So.
I have to book my room. I've bought my convention tickets.
Yeah,
already.
we have a good negotiated rate. No, and I haven't really been advertising the rate. I've been more or less advertising just the convention so far when I've been posting.
Okay.
But I'll be sure to advertise that as well so we can fill our room block.
Angela, when is that early bird price go up? It was $189, which is like $70 off.
15.
The tickets right now, what is the date? What is that early bird?
Friday is when early bird ends, so it goes through the 15th.
And what is the normal price of tickets?
$259 for the gold. Capone.
So it's $189 right now, and it's $259 after the 15th. Buy your convention tickets, people. Mr. Atwood?
Sponsors, where can I go to find where sponsors and exhibitors are, their rates are posted?
Main website, I think.
It's on lpcolorado.org/convention.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hey, Frank, when you go on to lpcolorado.org/conventions, it'll be
You're
the
out of
third
order.
option at the top.
Number is out of order.
Okay.
Anything further with the convention committee?
No, that's all I have.
Thank you very much. There is no unfinished business. Is there any new business?
Have an item of new business?
Mr. Pickrell.
So the chairman and I got in an interesting back and forth on an issue, but I think it raised an important issue on how our board is governed. I won't go into the details of what Victoria and I were discussing, but it raises the question, do we think there are situations where if the board approves something, as a board, all 11 of us, does the chairman have the power to override or veto that? And the reason I raise that is because this would be the first organization I've ever been in. I've been on several boards where that's the case.
Well, that was not the discussion at all. It had
No,
to
this
do
is-
with the exact wording of the bylaws, Article 2, Section 1.
But this gets back to the point. Even on a issue of interpretation of the bylaws, if the bylaws interpretation is in question, if the board decides it means the interpretation is this, but the chairman says it's that, in my experience, the board always is the one who controls and manages all the affairs of the party. And that's exactly what it says in our Constitution as well. The board controls and manages all the affairs of this party. So that's why I bring it up. It was a question that we went back and forth on, and so I bring it before the board for discussion.
Mr. Spalding.
My understanding is that the board overrides the chair, and the chair cannot override the board.
Anyone else on the board? Any other people on the board want to comment? Ms. Harlow?
That would fall under Robert's procedure. So if there was a question, either of parliamentary procedures or the bylaws, the chair would make a ruling, and then it would be incumbent upon the board to appeal the ruling is overturned. Then the board does have the authority to override the chair, following the appeal process in Roberts.
Ms. Harlows, you helped write the bylaws.
Some of them, yes.
Article 2, Section 1.
I believe that predates me to Jeff Orr, but let me take a
I
look.
think it was written actually, or was done in the 2017 convention.
Oh, okay, let me take a look.
It's Article 2, what?
Article 2, Section 1, the bylaws.
In the bylaws? Let me take a look.
Section. Is it Section 1, bylaws?
Mm-hmm.
It's my job description.
Okay. And
Where it says duties of the board, Section 1, the chair shall be the chief executive officer of the party, holding the powers of administration pertaining to the ordinary business affairs of the party, and such other powers as may be delegated by the board, as well as overseeing leadership training and succession planning at all levels within the party unless otherwise specified in party's bylaws, special rules of order, or resolutions of the board. The chair is responsible for appointing the chairs of all committees. The chair shall call convention as specified in the Constitution, the chair or their designee, including, and this is the question that Mr. Pickrell had, the chair or their designee, including other directors, acting within their designated job duties at the direction of the chair, shall be the person who shall communicate on behalf of the party.
I did write that sentence.
What does that mean?
I can tell you the situation that brought it up. I don't like speaking in a vacuum because each thing, you know, it's fact, but this had come up where there seemed to be a conflict between some of the job duties, particularly when I was communications director in the chair, where it said that the communications director is the one that deals with the press and things like that. But then that used to say that the chair did. And this was to designate that unless the chair overrides, like, I want to take this media appearance, it would go to the communications director as it is in their designated job duties. So it was just to say that the chair is the default for when it's not specified elsewhere, and where it is specified elsewhere as to who shall just be the person making appearances or official statements, not personal opinions. Official statements reflects the will of the board, it would be the chair.
Mr. Pickerel.
So the situation.
We've got 30 seconds. We've got 30
The situation
seconds.
was that there was a proposed press release, and there was some debate going on back and forth whether it was appropriate, and the chairman said in her opinion this is not support the libertarian principles, therefore she wouldn't allow it. And my position was we ought to let the board debate it and let the board decide what that interpretation should be, and that's what prompted the question. If the board decided the interpretation was one thing, yes, we think that this is in line with libertarian principles, but the chairman said no, it's not. Is the chairman allowed to say, I will not communicate that message?
It's time.
John, do we want to talk about this a bit more?
Or I'd be happy with continuing the discussion as unfinished business next meeting. So it gives people time to think about it.
Let's put it on the agenda for next meeting.
Yeah.
If there are no, and are there any opposed to putting this on the agenda for next meeting?
And I'd be glad to talk to anyone outside of the meeting, because yeah, that is a sentence I wrote.
Mr. Vice Chairman.
I'd like to resolve it now, but if I'm outvoted, I'm outvoted.
Are you making a motion to
I'd
add
also
time?
vote to resolve it now.
Apparently I am now.
Is there a motion to add time for this?
There is a motion.
Motion to extend, how much longer would you want, John?
I've pretty much said my piece.
All right.
It's up to the
For
rest
the
of the board on
discussion.
their discussion or debate.
Well, if John says he's made his peace, then I would draw my motion.
No, he said his piece.
He said his
Spelled-
piece, but
spelled
there's no
differently.
discussion yet. Who made that second? Did they want to make a motion?
So
Do you want to make a motion to extend the time, but how much, or do you want to deal with it next board meeting?
I would like to extend time by 5 minutes.
There is a motion to extend the time by 5 minutes, and there is a second. Are there any opposed? There is one opposed. I guess the motion passes. Let's extend the time for 5 minutes for discussion.
So I don't know if this needs a vote or not, but I don't think that the chair should have sole authority of how the rest of the board wants to communicate a message, which is what we're going to communicate. However, I understand that the chair may disagree with the board, but as an organization, I would assume that majority rules. So that's my input there.
Mr. Spalding.
Karen Ann, does that fit with your interpretation of that section?
Correct. This wasn't giving additional authority to the board, to the chair. It was just clearing up a potential conflict. it all still goes back to Roberts. If the chair were to interpret this bylaw to give that power to the chair, that would be her ruling, and then someone could appeal that ruling, and then the board's interpretation of that bylaw would prevail. That's how the interpretation of the bylaws goes. The chair's not the sole interpreter of the bylaws. The board is when it pertains to their operations, and then at convention, the convention delegates are.
Thank you, Ms. Harlos. Any further discussion, Mr. Hirschman?
The chair is the face and the voice of the party, though, yeah?
Correct.
But this has to do with someone else's post, right? Not the chair.
Representing the party.
Yeah.
Mr. Vice Chair?
May I add one thing?
Could we?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
Basically, I say just going forward to make sure everything stays clear. If you want an official statement to be presented as an official statement of the party through Facebook, social media, or website channels, just send us an email. I motion to make this an official statement, and then we just vote on it.
Is that a motion that you're making?
This is
Mr.
This is legislative.
Go ahead, Michael. Oh, actually, hold on just a second, Michael. Ms. Harlos had something to add before you could,
Right before time was extended, there was actually a question Mr. Pickerel had applied to me about whether, in the case of such a disagreement, can the chair say, I'm not going to deliver this message? I mean, as a matter of conscience, the chair could. Then the board would say, if this is a message to be delivered, that the vice chair would deliver it in the chair's stead. I mean, you can't force somebody to say something. The chair does not have to endorse something.
With this position of anything that is going to represent the official position of the party needs to go in front of the board. Because frankly, during the legislative session, every testimony I present, every white paper I present to the legislator is the official position of the party taking a position on legislation. And during the legislative session, frankly, I don't have time to wait for an approval. I look at the platform, I look at the statement of principles, and I write the policy position on behalf of the Libertarian Party of Colorado.
Mr. Pickerel.
Yeah, I want to clarify my concern. My concern wasn't that, say, Victoria's chairman is going and she's making statements without getting pre-approval. My concern was only when it comes into conflict, when the board openly conflicts with the chairman, then how does it get resolved? If there is no conflict, then obviously Michael Stapleton at the State House, he has to take it upon himself to use his best judgment. Our chairman as well, our communications director as well. My only concern was when it does come into conflict.
I might I'd add that they can, as individual people, you can say whatever you want. The only issue is when you're representing the Libertarian Party of Colorado and you're making a statement that goes against our bylaws, our platform, our Constitution. Is it okay for me to say, no, you're not putting this as the official statement from the party? As individual directors, you should be able to do that.
That's
that specific.
That's a misinterpretation of that email.
We're out of time. We're out of time.
Move to extend 2 minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion to extend by 2 minutes. Are there any opposed? With no opposition, we extend 2 minutes. Ms. Harlos.
Again, not knowing all the specifics, there is a historical situation that might be of use to the board. During the term when Jay North was chair, he vehemently disagreed with the position of the board on how many Senate, I forgot it was Proposition 61 or something about how many signatures needed. And when he spoke, he just made it clear that he thought the board came to the wrong decision on that, on libertarian principles, but that the official position of the party was X. Sort of like I do with abortion. You can say the party's position is X, but my personal one is this. But we did have a similar situation with Chair North.
Thank you.
The board overrode it.
Yes, the board overrode it.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like the board essentially decides what we're going to say, what the official position is going to be, obviously with the exception of legislative issues. Is that everyone else's understanding?
That is, there are people shaking their head no. Mr. Pickrell.
No, my understanding is only when people are free to state their positions in their best judgment and interpretation of what it means to stand by the statement of principles of the Libertarian Party and the platform.
I gotcha. That makes sense.
Time is up. I think we've come to an understanding. Are you in agreement?
Thank you. I think
Thank you very much. Is that it on the agenda?
Yep.
Mr. Harlows.
Mr. Chair, have you had a chance to check and make sure that each one of the new board members has signed the statement of principle?
Yes, they did.
Perfect.
I checked that back in May.
And we have two new board
Yes, they
members
signed
since-
them when they took the position. Thank you. Betty Rose.
I just want to say that I'm hoping that you will continue the newsletters, continue to fund them. If you continue to fund them, I will continue to fund extra ones going out, and see if we can raise money.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Is there anything further? Somebody gonna move to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.